this video, and in this video I'll be talking about the preventive measure on cyber security basics. And I'm sorry to break this to you, but I am not actually sorry. I would say the living fall to scam and not the dead. That is my own observation. So if you're pretty much alive, you are deemed to fall to this type of scam, not the dead. The dead has no business with scamming, okay? But the living do. That is just my own observation. And but there are some steps I could mention here in this video while just creating this video. If you deem them necessary or deem them fit, I don't know. But anyways, I'll continue with the video. But I want to say, before talking about the steps, sometimes we make mistakes even without knowing as a human. And most mistakes are, what am I talking about? I'm talking about, creating a social media account. I am not saying the idea of creating social account is not good, or letting your children or loved ones or your friends or whosoever, especially parents, the idea allowing their child, if you're a caregiver to someone, go on the internet might not really be a good idea for you at first, but sometimes kids do it anyway. But I want to talk about starting point of the mistake, because getting on social media, I want to say it's necessary sometimes, but that is the first step, making mistake when it comes to cyber security basics, okay? And because I want to say that is not actually a mistake. Sometimes it could be fun, but we do this without knowing, so it's actually a mistake. That is why I said, as a human, we make mistake without knowing, if I am correct. So sometimes even adults create social accounts, and let's just stick to the idea, the general idea of social media. It was created for family and friends, get connected, even for family members who are distance sure to get connected and talk. That is the essence of communication, bringing people close, delivering message. And the message sometimes is so vital, but when you want to get to know people out there, and talk to people, and that is just it, you're actually making what I'll say the first step of a mistake. But actually it's not a mistake. There's no problem with you setting up an account and talking to people, but getting to know people online. Let's just talk about my mistake. I deem it fit as a mistake, because sometimes getting to set up an account and then know people doesn't just start with knowing people. Sometimes it has to do with communication, and sometimes communication as well, you can as well lead to information. So talking to these people, sometimes you might not generally know the people you're talking to. Sometimes it might be family members, but if I am to talk to someone, maybe in Sokoto, and then we'll talk about, getting to know each other. Hi there, how are you? And where are you from? And response. Maybe days turn to weeks to months, I don't know, to year. And then we have friendship. But then before this friendship, we could have shared a lot of information about each other. That is the essence of getting to know each other, sharing information about oneself. But in the world of scam, I think information is pretty much everything, because you don't just expect scammers to just scam you of money. No, but information are very vital, because as a scammer, this information you give, where you're from, the place you work, what you do, the things you like, all these are pretty much important, necessary to a scammer. their information, and sometimes you might just give them away, if it's a habit of you talking to people, especially when you have this mentality of making new friends, and then it's like a routine to you where you talk to people about yourself, and that is just it. Like, but to you it has no business, but to me it's like it's very, very much important because of the information you share online. It is way really, really important. Now sometimes as a scammer, I could go back to those information, those chats, sometimes save those information. Now, it is not everything, it is not really necessary that I may ask you of money. Let's just pretend I am a scammer. But with this information I have gotten from you, with this idea, this knowledge, you pretty much feel you know this person. But on the other hand, you don't know the next person you're talking to. And I believe the problem behind this psychology is people feel and claim to know people. That is it, but you don't know, not even your brother, not even your family members. Like, you don't know anyone. That is the general mentality. You were born alone, okay? So you're not you don't, no matter how you feel you know someone, getting to talk to them or getting close to them, you don't know anyone. So you have to protect yourself out there. You have to protect your information out there. You need to protect yourself at all time, at all cost, okay? So let's just say these informations are now, let's pretend I am being a scammer. I can pretend about the whole information I am giving you. Pretty much everything I will be breathing are lies, okay? The place I will be telling you I am coming from will be a lie. The work I do, even family, kids, choice, my likes and dislikes, everything will be forgery. This is the information a scammer will be giving you. Okay, you need to understand. But you, on the other hand, it's a routine for you, where you've talked to you, because this is basically the mentality. You've grown up, talking to people with this mindset, sharing information. But look, it's not done out there, okay? So the first step, or the first measure, preventing cyber security basics, or the preventive measure, is do not give out information about yourself to anyone, and do not care to know anyone. You do not know anyone here on the social media. I know this information is pretty much disruptive, but that is it, okay? The preventive measure. And remember, like I said, there is no preventive measure when it comes to scam. I would say with my observation, the living fall to scam and not the dead. That is pretty much my observation. So if you're pretty much alive, I deem it fit that one time or once in a lifetime you might fall to scam, okay, whichever way. And when it occurs, that is when we can actually have the name for it. But the dead has no business with scams or how it's been done, okay? And another thing is do not develop the habit of sending money to people online you've just met. Do not. I am not saying you should not do charity. I don't know if I am actually telling you that, or that is how this video is sounding. But do not develop, if you've developed the habit of talking to people online, making friends, just like you've been doing on social media, then please do not make the second mistake of developing the habit of sending people money even on the social media. Because when you've made the first mistake, which is trying to or feel people, and then you make the second mistake of developing the habit of sending money, then pretty much you're building your way or the road, or you're on the road to scam, okay? And we have information scam, relationship scam, so on and so forth. It's so much. In fact, I would say scam, the word scam itself, it's life, okay? It's like a tree that has branches and so on and so forth. And note, some scammers are not just after your money, but They are after your information, so protect yourself out there, okay? Ah,